I have a question for you that's a little bit different, and it's just something I've been wondering is, a few times yourself and others recently, former government members have spoken about evidence that was quote unquote unmistakable in that it wasn't ours necessarily. And so, and whether that be a photo or video or a collection of all kinds of data, but when you put that in together in your thoughts and you realize that this is something that is possibly not ours, is there not a profound feeling, or what is that like to go to work in the morning and have that, in your thoughts?
Surprisingly enough, I think you're about to find out. I think as more people get socialized to this idea, you're seeing it right now. There's this aha moment, but after a while, there's this steady realization that we're dealing with something that we haven't really thought about much before, and that it's real, and there's all sorts of possibilities. But I think as people become increasingly socialized to that notion, there's more of this easy acceptance. And I don't want to say it ever became routine, because people say, how can you, oh my gosh, how can this just be routine for you? But you get to a point where, how many times do you look up at the stars and say, wow, that's beautiful? And then how many people really contemplate, you're looking at objects that are millions of light years away. Some of them aren't even in existence anymore, right? You're talking, some of those little points of light are entire galaxies, right?
Right.
And yet there's this almost benign realization that, the universe is pretty big. And you just kind of get accustomed to it. I know it sounds, again, I know this sounds terrible for some people. They're going to say, how you're diminishing the value of all this, this incredible knowledge and research and work that's been done in this topic. I'm not. I think what I'm doing is describing the human condition. Once you sail over the horizon of the ocean, and you realize that a lot of the proverbial sea monsters that were described to us are really just parts of nature, right? There are great white sharks and blue whales and giant squid in the Pacific, but they're no longer monsters. They're just part of our natural environment. And there have been other moments in time, just like this, where, for example, Copernicus or Galileo had proposed that the Earth was not the center of the solar system. And that was a seismic event for a lot of people, and they refused to believe it. In fact, they wouldn't even look through Galileo's telescope. They refused to, because it contradicted their narrative and their philosophy. And yet here we are now, a few hundred years later, and we kind of laugh at that, kind of chuckle. Why were people afraid of that? Why? That's just normal. And I suspect this conversation may very well turn out to be like that. What maybe for us right now is this roller coaster ride of, oh my gosh, the universe maybe is a lot more complex and bigger than we thought, and our place in it, we're going to start to question. This isn't new. This happens as a species constantly. It may not happen in every one of our lifetimes, but if you look over the history of mankind, this happens constantly. And this is part of our evolutionary process, and it shouldn't be feared. It should be embraced. I think with every one of these revelations comes new opportunity.